Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, my name is Beth, and I'm a Celtic spiritualist. I went on a retreat this weekend. It was amazing. It was a walking awake, which I'll talk about, and it's a little bit tied to the island of Iona, which is on, it's one of the small islands off the coast of Scotland in the Outer Hebrides, and it was an amazing Celtic retreat. But it was cut short for me because the mountain where I live is literally on fire. And so I was like, whoa, what am I going to do my video on? I really want to talk about Brigid, saint or goddess Brigid, but my mountain is on fire. And it's really special to me. I moved to where I live in eastern Pennsylvania to live on the Appalachian Trail. I've been a long-distance hiker since 1997, which is probably before many of you were born, having learned how to hike in the Girl Scouts as a Girl Scout camp counselor. And I did not grow up in a hiking family, but I fell in love with the woods and I fell in love with the Appalachian Trail. And so I lived in New Jersey and I lived far away from the trail, so I had to always drive an hour to get to the Appalachian Trail. So when we moved to Pennsylvania, when I accepted this job, I said, I want to live in a trail town, and here are the choices. And so I moved to the town where I'm at. And I take care of a section of trail with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, the ATC. Volunteers maintain, little sections, and the section that I take care of is probably the hardest in Pennsylvania. It's like a diamond, not a diamond, triangle. It's a triangle. Majored in English, not shapes. And one side is the AT proper, and the other side is the winter trail, because the conditions are so treacherous that we don't want people climbing up the huge boulders in the winter, so we have a winter trail. Well, apparently somebody had a campfire. We have a burn ban going on right now because it's extremely dry here, and everything is so flammable. So apparently, rumor has it, I don't know if this is true or not because I was away, and I didn't have reception where I was, which I'll get to, but somebody had a campfire, didn't put it out correctly, and it launched off a forest fire. So the mountain is literally on fire. The trail, the part of the trail that I take care of, is on fire. I, of course, am sad about all the animals that can't get out. Somebody did capture on video the bald eagle that lives up there. He managed to get out, so we're happy about that. But it's devastating, and it's on the other side of the mountain. But if it comes over the top of the mountain, it will come right for my house, because my house is the first street off of the mountain on the other side. So we're all a little bit on pins and needles. I came home, we prepared a plan in case we get evacuated, and I thought, well, how can I talk about St. Brigid? Well, of course I can talk about St. Brigid, or Goddess Brigid, whatever you believe, because Brigid, I was thinking about this at this retreat. So the Walking Awake retreat, Walking Awake is a book and cards that, and a concept created by a woman named Denise, and I'll link the information below. It's an amazing, her story is amazing, and how I came connected to her is kind of amazing. And if you've been on the channel for a long time, you've heard this story, but if you're new, you're going to hear it again. So near where I live in eastern Pennsylvania, there's a place called the Columkille Megalith Park, and it's a standing stones park, and it's like a mini Stonehenge. And so when I moved here in 2019, I was looking around for things to do, and I saw it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go visit that. And I'm like, oh, how come I never, because I grew up near here. I grew up in Bethlehem, which isn't too far from where this is in Bangor, Pennsylvania. So I'm like, how did I never hear of this? And it's been around since the 70s. Like, it's been around a long time, but I never heard of it. And it's amazing. It's an amazing space. And the story behind it is just incredible. This guy, Bill, was a minister, I think Presbyterian or something like that, from the Midwest. And he went to Iona, this tiny little Scotland island, 3 Mile Island, off the coast of Western Scotland. And he was so moved by the Celtic spirituality and the presence of that place. It's a very thin place, that he came back and said, I have to build something like that here in the United States. So he looked for land. He was from the Midwest. He ended up here in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And he built, I mean, he literally moved rock to build this megalith structure. And there's like, there's standing stones and circles and a women's trail and a men's trail and a Thor's Gate and all this amazing stuff. I will link it below if you ever need a place to go. It is amazing. And so he built this, and his partner, Fred, he and Fred built this place, and it was inspired by Iona. So Fred was the partner, and he passed away a few years before Bill, and Bill was sort of the driving force of the place. And he died in 2018, and I moved here in 2019. So I never met Bill or Fred. So I go to Columkille, and some people pronounce it Columcille, but Columkille. So I go, and I was so impressed with it, and I was so impressed with this story of this guy who literally went to this island, came back completely transformed, and decided to literally move mountains to make this place. So I thought, well, I got to go to this island, but it costs a lot of money, and it takes a whole day to get there. So I was about 46 or so at the time, and I said, for my 50th birthday, I want to go to this Iona, because I found out, doing some research, that the Iona Abbey, the abbey that's there, used to be the graveyard of the 12 kings, and one of those kings is Macbeth, the original one that the story is based on. And as an English professor who taught Macbeth probably 40 million times by now, I wanted to play my pipes there for my 50th birthday. That was going to be my gift to myself. I've always tried to make the dreams of my children come true, and my husband and my friends, and this was going to be my time. I was going to make my own dream come true. So saved the money, and we went. We didn't go. My birthday is in October. It was just last week, so we didn't go for my birthday, because who wants to go to Scotland in October? But we waited till April, and we kind of combined it as a /20th anniversary /50th birthday. So we went, and we had an amazing time. I loved it. It's a thin place. It's a beautiful place. And now remember, I never met Fred or Bill. I don't know them. I love the story of them, but I didn't know them. I don't feel tied to that story in any particular way when I go to Columkille. When I visit, and I try to visit pretty often. And so when I booked our Airbnb on Iona, there was only one room left on the entire island. And I was told that. They said to book early, because it does fill up, and it's a small island. It only has so many accommodations. So I booked that. And so when I got there, the house that we were in, the caretaker, the person sort of in charge of breakfast and whatnot, his name is Richard. He was one of the people that helped build Columkille, and he knew Fred and Bill really well. Him and his partner lived by Lehigh University, which is where I grew up. I grew up right by Lehigh University, and it was just all the synchronicity. So on the I'm always asking Spirit for signs. So on the train ride to Oban, I see a double rainbow, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm in the direction I'm supposed to be going in. I'm supposed to go to this Iona. I get to Iona. The guy that's the caretaker, he wasn't the owner of the Airbnb, but the caretaker of the Airbnb is this Richard guy who knew and got pictures out and was showing me pictures of Fred and Bill, and knew all these people that were associated with Columkille. And then he said, out my window, which faced the water, that some of Bill's ashes had been spread there. And there was this big, juicy, fat spider in the windowsill, which, I don't kill spiders, I don't kill anything. So I was like, all right, Fred and Bill, I get it. And for whatever reason, I'm more attached, I think, to Fred than Bill. And I don't know why, because Bill was the guy that built it, but I feel more of a spiritual connection to Fred, whoever Fred was. So I'm like, okay, all the signs are there. It's a very thin place. I played my pipes in the graveyard. I played my pipes at a service. They have services at the Abbey. Loved it. Loved my time there. And so I went to the bookstore, and let me tell you, I can buy a book or two. I had so many books. So I wanted to limit myself because of, carry-on luggage and stuff coming back. I wanted to just be mindful that I wasn't, just buying stuff for the sake of buying stuff. So I bought things for my nieces and my sisters-in-law, and stuff like that. But I was going to pick one book to buy. So I looked through the books, and there were so many good books. But there was this one book that really, really stuck out to me, and it was a book and card set. I read Oracle cards, so I was like, oh, all right, I'm going to get this book. It was really pretty, but it was wrapped in plastic. So I read the back of it, looked interesting. It was pictures of Iona on the cards, and I thought, okay, that'll probably resonate with me. It's Celtic. It was called Walking Awake by this woman named Denise, and I was like, I didn't know her or anything, so I get the book. And I take it back to the Airbnb, and I unwrap it, and I'm reading it, and I read the foreword, and this woman is from Bangor, Pennsylvania, where she lived right next door, literally next door to Columkille. And she was the one who spread the ashes of Bill when they were spread outside the window. So I'm like, okay, Bill and Fred, I get it. I get it. So I always feel called to participate in the culture of Columkille, but I think they're going through some kind of phase right now that doesn't really include outsiders. I think they have a set way that they see things being done. And so I tried to volunteer there a few times with the skill set that I have, which isn't what they were looking for at the time. I think that might have turned now. I think maybe I have an in now. But anyway, but I do feel very passionately about the place. I think it's an amazing place. And if you're a Celtic spiritual person, it's an amazing place to go, to reflect, to put hands on stones. You know, stones. One of the passages that I don't know if we read or somebody said this on Friday night at the beginning of the retreat, that, you know, stones retain our prayers and retain our thoughts. So when you lay your hands on stone, because stone has been here forever, and if you think about standing stones, if you think about Stonehenge or Newgrange, right? If you think about those stones, they existed millions of years before they were moved into those locations, and they've been in those locations for thousands of years. So stone really does retain memory, and stone is really, you know, the bedrock of our natural world. Dirt and water come and go, but rocks and stone stay. So I was, you know, blown away by the experience. And then I found out that that they were going to be doing a retreat. This woman who wrote this book was going to do a retreat, and it was going to be there's a retreat center, a peace and justice retreat center right next door to Columkille, and it was going to be this weekend. And I thought, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to meet this woman. I'm going to meet people who are like-minded. If you watch the channel, you know, sometimes I feel a little alone out here because my brand of Celtic Christian spirituality is very different than most other people. So I was like, well, I'm going to go, but I'm going to go by myself because I don't really know anybody who's into this stuff like I am. So I went by myself, and there's always a risk of me not being liked or being welcomed or being accepted. So I went, and it really was tremendous, and so many connections. It was mostly women. There were a few gentlemen, and you know, we talked about all kinds of things, and some of them are shaman healers, and one of them was a doula coach, and I mean, just this tremendous group of people, all very spiritual. Some Wiccans, some witches, some pagans, some atheists, some Christians. I mean, there was everybody, and everybody was so welcoming and kind and nice, and it really truly was a wonderful experience. So, you know, one of the figures that Denise talks about a lot, and a lot of the other women sort of identify with, is Bridget, and I identify with Bridget. And if you know, I wear a Bridget medallion for Saint Bridget. I keep a Bridget's cross in my rune bag, and I have Bridget's crosses on all the doors in my house. So I was thinking about that in reflection when I was doing my meditation and when I was reading, and I'm like, why does every woman I know love Saint Bridget? Like, why do we all love Saint Bridget? There's lots of great female saints, right? There's Saint Teresa Lisieux. There's all kinds of great female saints, but I mean, Celtic women like Bridget because she's Celtic, but why? Why do we all love Saint Bridget? And I wish I could speak more about the goddess Brigid. I know some of the legends and the myths and stuff of the goddess Brigid. I'm a little more familiar with St. Brigid of Kildare. And I think it's because she was a woman of action. She was not sitting on her laurels. She was not just cloistered and praying. She was out starting abbeys. She was feeding the poor. She was helping the sick. You know, she was healing. She was doing. She was out doing stuff. And I feel like I'm very drawn to that energy, right? It's one thing to say, oh yes, I'm a Christian, or oh yes, I'm spiritual, I'm an atheist spiritualist, or whatever, and to keep that all inside. But St. Bridget's example is to go out and do it. So I didn't have reception for most of the weekend. There was one spot on this one path in the freezing cold where I could get one or two bars. So I'm walking out I played my pipes, but I had my kilt and I had to get something. And my phone just exploded. Ding, 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 ding. I'm like, what the heck? And so people are saying, are you okay? Do you need a place to stay? Come and stay with us. Bring the cats. I'm like, what are they talking about? And here, the mountain's on fire. and literally right across my street. Like, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the fire. And so I'm freaking out. I call home. I said, what's going on? It's on the other side of the mountain. It hasn't crossed over the top to our side, but it's bad. And they can't get, there's no roads. There are no roads to take up there to put out the fire. It's very rocky terrain. It's the hardest section of the Pennsylvania Trail. It's hard to climb up there without equipment. I can't imagine what it's like to climb with fire hoses. ATVs will get you into certain areas, but it's really hard to get ATVs up some of the parts of it because it's all giant boulders. And I just broke out in tears. I was so upset about the trail. I mean, the animals alone, the trees, the bald eagle that I know lives there, and just the millions of memories that have been made up there. I hiked up there with my buddy Odie, who is used to be the head of the hiker yearbook. And he made me go up there with him one day. He didn't tell me where we were going. I was wearing my pajamas and flip-flops. I do not recommend hiking the Appalachian Trail in flip-flops, and I definitely don't encourage you to do that in the Lehigh Gap. So, so I was just like, I couldn't focus. And I realized it's because I'm a woman of action. I follow Brigid's example. I can't just sit here and think about it. I have to go and help somehow. I have to go do something. Volunteer with disaster response for Red Cross. I specialize in big disasters. I need to go home. I need to go home, and I need to help. If I'm needed, I need to be ready. I need to get home. And so I had to leave early to be ready. I was supposed to play at an event today with my band brothers, but I'm like, guys, listen, first of all, I might be evacuated, so I got to go home and get my family ready, but I need to be delivering water or something. I need to be doing something to help in my community. And I came back, and it's funny that GPS brought me this weird way that brought me all along the trail back to my house. And I think that was, Spirit saying, look, the rest of the trail is okay. This is part of the trail. The rest of the trail is okay. And I got home, and it's like a wall of smoke out there. And ash is falling from the sky, and it just smells terrible. And my next door neighbor just had a baby. The baby's like 3 days old, and she's got a little dog. I'm like, keep them inside, And I quick turned, put some Red Cross clothing on, and I just drove around and to check on the fire police that kind of guard the roads to make sure they had water, because a lot of people donated stuff, but it always goes up to the big fire departments. I wanted to make sure the little guys were being taken care of, and they were. And it was just so tremendous, the outpouring of love. And, if you're Christian and you believe in Jesus, or even if you don't, sort of the first commandment that Jesus gave, the commandment that he gave is love your neighbor as yourself. Do this one thing. And that is what the community is doing. And given the contentious and heated and polarizing energy of Tuesday's election, nobody cares about that right now. Every single person around here cares about those first responders, making sure they're taken care of, and making sure that the one road, Fireline Road, which is in jeopardy, that those people are taken care of. Nobody cares what color they are. They don't care what gender they are. They don't care who they're married to. They don't care what political party they are in. They just want to make sure they're safe and okay. And that is the example of Bridget. Goddess or saint, be a person of action. Be a person that goes out and helps those who are in need. And I just thought that was such a tremendous example, a tremendous story, and definitely a tremendous way to wrap up my spiritual weekend. So I am wishing you all the very best in light and love. Please be careful out there. If you live in a place where there are droughts, no cigarettes out the window, no little fires, no fireworks, nothing. If you're in a place where it's dry, just be careful. I don't want to cast the first stone, because we all make mistakes, and I'm sure however this started, it was an accident, and I'm not going to be the first. I'm not going to cast the first stone, because we all can be careless, but just be mindful and keep your wits about you. Wishing you the best in light and love. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.